Why isn't it that everyone is setting records at the enhanced games? The regular Olympics are in fact the actual enhanced games. It takes somebody like Coach Greg, somebody who's actually a thinker, to explain to you why this makes no sense. Backyard Greg, and in today's video, we're going over the so-called enhanced games where you supposedly can take whatever you want. Or can you? Now, they did in fact ask to get Coach Greg to go and cover these games, but I had other things to do here in Miami. I'm racing bikes. And so in this morning's extravaganza, approximately 115 of us were riding and racing along on the Rickenbacker Causeway here in Miami. And so I wasn't there live to record it, but I am going to be covering it. After the completion of the first few days, they've only set 1 out of 9 records, the record of which was in the 50-meter dash. And I'm talking about swimming. And so at a time of about 20.8 seconds, which is 13.2 seconds faster than Mitchell Hooper's time, you all saw Mitchell Hooper. He sets the world record and walks away with $1 million, but where were all the other records? And so what everyone is saying, speculating, is that this proves that the regular Olympics are in fact the actual enhanced games. That at the regular Olympics, people are already abusing performance-enhancing drugs. And the proof of that is, well, if those people were actually natural, why isn't it that everyone is setting records at the enhanced games? It takes somebody like Coach Greg, somebody who's actually a thinker, to explain to you why this makes no sense. Let's look at the 100-meter dash. The record of Usain Bolt of 9.58 seconds, I do believe. Well, did they in fact break this record? Of course they didn't. Did anyone think that they were going to set this record? With the winning time of approximately 9.95, give or take a couple of 0.01s, it's not even close to the record. And so does that prove that Usain Bolt had to be on steroids because these guys could not beat his time? Of course not. That makes no sense. To the same extent, I'm on performance-enhancing drugs, namely HRT, and so I've been doing my HRT shots, and I'm riding with about 115 riders. And lo and behold, I didn't beat all of them. Although I'm in perhaps the top half, the top third, roughly, give or take, there are still several of them way faster than Coach Greg. And so if I'm on HRT and they beat me, does that prove that they also had to be on HRT? Of course it doesn't. This is ludicrous. And so to the same extent, if a bunch of lower level sprinters, Class B sprinters or has-beens, you know, guys who used to be good back in the day, if they suddenly hop on performance-enhancing drugs, you really think that they're going to break all these records? And so when we see a bunch of retired swimmers come back and try to break world records with steroids and they don't, that doesn't prove that they used to use steroids back in their day. Now, given the fact that one individual actually did set a world record with the aid of performance-enhancing drugs, namely in the 50-meter swim, that's a strong indicator that steroids, they actually work, and that the people who originally set those records were actually natural. Think of it. A retired swimmer can come back, use performance-enhancing drugs, and set the world record, the fastest time in human history. If the swimmers were actually enhanced using performance-enhancing drugs, then how did this retired swimmer come out of nowhere and set the record? And so picture this. Does anyone think that Gout, you know, the phenom sprinter, 18 years of age, that he's going to suddenly hop on and use performance-enhancing drugs for a measly $1 million? Bro is going to make tens of millions of dollars by staying natural and running in the Olympics, getting sponsorships and so on. And so this same logic applies to almost everyone. If you're an athlete and you've been training for the Olympics, you've been dedicated to being natural your entire life, you're not suddenly going to say, oh, a $1 million steroids? Oh yeah, sign me up. Just because you can earn $1 million for using steroids, it doesn't mean that you should. If I was offered $1 million, Coach Greg, do one cycle of test and trend, you know, just for 10 weeks. We want to see how big you can get. I wouldn't do it. It's not worth it. I don't want to risk my health. I mean, did we not see the famous Brazilian just die Literally, he's no longer with us. He was using performance-enhancing drugs for a matter of months, and so this can happen to anyone. And so the current best prospects, the Olympic hopefuls, they're not the ones that use steroids and then still couldn't break the records. It's Class B racers, guys who aren't quite there, not good enough. And they decided, hey, this is my last hurrah. And by the way, many of these guys are winning $400,000 for getting first place. And so, yeah, some decent runners, decent sprinters, not quite the best in the world. They decided to take part, but they just weren't good enough to break the world records. But remember, these are world records. And so just because the current crop of athletes that competed at the Enhanced Games, we're not all setting world records, doesn't prove jack shit. The highlight of the Enhanced Games for perhaps many of us, the deadlift. Mitchell Hooper versus Thor. Who will break the record and take home the $1 million? And so Mitchell Hooper, it just wasn't his day. Although he moved the 515 kilograms an inch, he did struggle a little bit with 440 kilograms. And so to jump from 440 to 515, it's a tall order. I believe he's overtrained from winning other competitions, but even if he was not, that 515, it is a heck of a lot of weight. Now, when it comes to Thor, this was the man on a mission, $1 million. He warms up and he's competing and he easily puts up 475 kilograms. He then jumps 40 kilograms, it's about 88 pounds, and I'm fully expecting him to get this. But unfortunately, he's only able to get it about halfway and it stalls. And so unfortunately for him, he had to go up against the best deadlifter all time, which is himself. He already set that record, and so unfortunately, he had lifted 510 at his last competition, and so he wasn't stronger than he was on that day. Most likely, he was about equal. He didn't win the $1 million, but I do believe he wins perhaps $250,000 or $400,000. It is a decent paycheck.
All right, I've just arrived to the sporting event that is fully allowing PEDs to be in play today.
They're not fully allowing it. It's only allowed if it's FDA approved. And so, for example, you can't use Tren. They have very specific regulations. You can't even use BPC 157, TB 500. You can't use Reta, retatrutide. What you can use are supplements that are legal to sell by doctors. And so, for example, testosterone, I'm on HRT, you can use HRT. You could use Ozempic. You could use a GLP. And so, guys, are you aware that Algorex sells FDA-approved medications? And so everything sold at Algorex can be used in the Olympics. At other shady research chemical sites, they're going to sell things that are not approved, that you cannot use, and you don't even know what you're going to get. And so if you want to get certain peptides, for example, the GLPs, or if you want to get medications for your hair or anything legal. And so, for example, enclomiphene. And don't forget, you can get your blood work, you can get the doctors to explain things to you. Please reach out. Click the link in the description.
Will they beat it? Fred Curley is the guy to win it for 9.58 seconds for $1 million.
Tell me you don't follow athletics without telling me you don't follow athletics. Will he beat it? That would be like me entering the deadlift championship and saying, will Greg set the world record in the deadlift? Oh, but he's using steroids. Do you think there's suddenly guys that are running at the collegiate level that are going to use performance-enhancing drugs, go on a cycle of tests and take a half a second off their 100-meter dash time? What's next? Can anyone just use performance-enhancing drugs and hit home runs out of the park? If you took the worst team in baseball and all of them went on testosterone, they wouldn't beat the best team in baseball. It doesn't make that big of a difference. Now, in sports like strongman, powerlifting, where it's how much you can lift, of course it is. But guess what? Newsflash, does anyone think that strongman guys are actually natural? And then in the enhanced games, now they're allowed. If anything, it made it harder. The strongman athletes had to use fewer steroids, not more. And so Thor, he wasn't allowed to blast Tren. He had specific medications, steroids that he was allowed to use. And he wasn't allowed to use BPC 157, TB 500 for recovery because it's not FDA approved. And so the enhanced games are technically half natty as they're only allowed to use very specific medications.
These dudes were definitely sweating on that wood floor beneath their feet. They definitely need to change that platform because most likely they took a huge new deadlift world record away from Thor and a lot of money.
I'm not sure about that. You're trying to tell me that an Olympic floor for Olympic lifting is too slippery to do a conventional deadlift where your feet are in line with your shoulders. Even if it's slippery, you're lifting the bar straight up and down. Now, if it was sumo and your feet are wide and you need to stick to the ground, of which we used to do all the time, you literally wear, guess what? It's called shoes. And you can rub the shoe down, you can make it so that it's very sticky and they don't slip away. Now, if you decide to go bare feet, sock feet, because you're concerned that, well, 1/4 of an inch heels is going to make it harder than last time to lift a weight up, well, that's on you. I certainly don't think that the reason that Thor didn't lift this weight was because the floor was too slippery. I don't believe it. I don't believe that the enhanced game had a scheme to make it more difficult to not have these athletes pay out. As there was even footage of the 50-meter dash where there was someone saying that they actually timed it wrong, that the swimmer didn't swim that fast. They showed footage, and when the 20.81 seconds was timed, his hand was approximately a foot or more away from the end of the pool. And so that footage, it kind of shows that the time was faster than indicated, but hey, who knows with different camera angles, footage, I don't know. But I certainly don't believe there's a conspiracy to have the athletes lift less weight than last time. If anything, the enhanced games want to prove that this is the games to watch. If you want to see all the records go down, this is where it happens. The best athletes, the best steroids, the best times, the best stage in the world, this is where it's at. With hardly any records being set, it kind of makes it lackluster. With more records, there's more eyeballs, there's more people talking about it. And with more eyeballs and more publicity, there's going to be more sponsorship, which is exactly what you need to run the enhanced games. One thing you need to be aware of is that in the regular Olympics, you're allowed to use Turk Max. Turkesterone, or Ajuga turkistanica, from Coach Greg, it's not banned, and neither is GO2 Max. And so if you want an advantage over your opponents, and you do not want to risk failing the drug test, but you still want to win, you know where it's at. You click the link in the description, you go to HDLT Supplements, you get Turk Builder Max or Turk Platinum as well as GO2 Max. That is the ultimate combo. Increased strength, increased energy, better recovery. You're gonna feel the difference, you're gonna be stronger, and you're gonna be able to attack those weights, attack cardio. Guys, if you're not using this, it makes a significant difference. And what is a significant difference? Several percentages faster and stronger, that is enough. Is it gonna make you 10% stronger? No. It's not trenbolone, but it is going to make a noticeable difference, an impact. And so fitness, training, being at your best is important to you. Click the link in the description and code Greg for 15% off. Subscribe, click the bell button, comment to boost the algorithm. Please like the video if you liked it. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Are the regular Olympics actually the enhanced games and they're just getting away with it? Or do you believe that the majority of people competing at the Olympics are actually natural? To be sponsored, to be coached, or to sell my stuff in your stores, click the link, and until next time, I'm going to go touch some grass.